Welcome to Creative Minds Smart Money, the podcast where creativity and business smarts collide. I'm your host, Samantha Eck, bookkeeper, business coach, and your go-to guide for building the creative business of your dreams. Whether it's mastering your money, streamlining your systems, or growing your business, I'm here to share insights that empower you to thrive. Plus, I'll be bringing in industry experts to dive into all aspects of entrepreneurship, so you can turn your passion into profit without losing your creative spark. Let's get started. You're listening to the Creative Minds Smart Money podcast, and today I'm so excited to welcome our special guest, Lauren Glynn. Lauren Glynn is a systems and operations consultant, empowering established business owners to work fewer hours and make more money without chaos and overwhelm. Drawing from her extensive experience with Fortune 500 companies and federal agencies, Lauren provides tailored coaching and done-for-you implementation services to help clients build scalable systems, work fewer hours, increase revenue, and achieve a better work-life balance. Lauren, I'm so happy to have you here today.
I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in. And I would love to know what kind of led you to become a systems and operations consultant.
So I was working for a bunch of really big companies, helping them as what's called an agile coach, where I help teams figure out their processes, their tools, their dynamics, how they want to communicate, their meeting cadence, all of those things. So that's what I was doing in the corporate world. And I decided that I didn't enjoy the corporate world. I wasn't enjoying selling my soul for money, and decided to kind of branch out on my own. And I had started out actually as a leadership coach because it felt like a natural transition from the work that I was doing, because I was also working with leaders in my corporate job. And I was working with a coach, a business coach, and I just wasn't getting traction with the leadership coaching. It just wasn't really taking off. And I was talking to her and she's like, what do you enjoy doing? What really lights you up inside? And I was like, well, I really like technology. Like, it's really easy for me. Like, I just get it really well. And, I'm already kind of helping some friends on the side do these kinds of things. And she was like, well, why don't you do that? And I was like, well, duh, that's probably a good idea. So that's kind of how I shifted my focus from sort of leadership coaching now to systems, operation, productivity, all of those things. Basically, helping you understand what to focus on in your business and then what systems sort of support.
Okay. No, that's awesome. And I love that you are really zeroing in on what lights you up, because I think that's so important, because then you have that passion, and I can already hear that passion in your voice. So I love that. I know you wanted to talk about vision and prioritizing your goals and developing like a really good action plan. So can you share your journey of defining your core values and how they really shape your business decisions?
Yeah, so I don't have defined, written down core values, but I think everyone has them sort of in their head, right? Who do they want to work with? What do they want to do with their lives? What sort of impact do they want to make in the world? And mine came about really organically, actually. I never really sort of sat down to define them, even though I kind of preach that people should sit down to define them. But mine came about more about okay, I'm meeting with this person, but it's not really someone I want to work with, but I would really be excited to work with this person. So that sort of helped me narrow down okay, these are the people that I'm excited to work with. New entrepreneurs or established entrepreneurs that are women, that are really passionate about what they're doing. They're really excited about serving the people that they're serving. I don't want to help people who are just in it for the money, because that's not who I am. So that's not who I think I should be helping. Giving back to the community. I volunteer a lot with the animal shelter. I volunteer with voter registration drives and things like that. So that's important for my company, to make sure that I'm supporting those things that are important to me. So it came about organically, developing my own vision. But if I were working with a client, then that's something that I would help them define at the beginning of their journey. It's not something that I ever focused on at the beginning of my journey, and I wish I had. I wish I had sat down to really define it and think about it. But now I'm sort of, like I said, developing it as I go. And I should sit down and develop my own really more intentionally.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you said that one of yours is it's not necessarily about the money, because I am the same way. Money is a bonus for me when it comes to either the bookkeeping or the coaching side of my business. What really matters to me is helping the client out and getting them to where they need to be, because we're all, as entrepreneurs, we're all trying to get somewhere. We all have different goals and different ways of getting there, but sometimes you need that helping hand first in order to be able to reach that goal.
Yeah. And what's really important to me is helping people understand that technology doesn't have to be scary. So many entrepreneurs, and I find women especially, are just so intimidated by technology. And they think that if they make a mistake, it's all going to fall apart. And I really like to show people, like, no, it's not brain. And I can say this because I had brain surgery. It's not brain surgery. Like, it's okay. We'll figure it out. If you make a mistake, we have Control Z for a reason. Like, we'll make it
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, I love that you say that too, because one of the things that I learned corporately when I used to work in accounting is that you really need to just like play with the system because it's not going to break. Like they're built not to break, they're built to be played around with. But you're right, everybody is so scared of technology and they think that it's going to just break the moment they touch it. So, talking about vision again, what was the process like? I know, and I know you touched on this a little bit, but what was the process like for you to identify your big why, and how has it influenced your business vision?
Well, actually, I was listening to a podcast, and I wish I could remember which one it was. And she talked about her big why and like how she sat down to define her big why. And so I used kind of the formula that she developed and then made it my own. So I
Okay.
really she was really thinking about like, and we have this exercise in coaching called the 5 whys. You sit down and you really want to get to the root of, usually it's used for problem solving, but it's, you can get to the root of like, well, I want to help people. Well, why is that important? Well, I want to make a difference in the world. Well, why is that important? You keep kind of drilling down to find that really core why. And it's usually the core reason of why this software broke, but in your business, it can be the core reason of why you do what you do. And for me, it was about sitting down and thinking about, okay, well, I want to be in business for myself, but why? And I want to, okay, so I want to be in business for myself. Well, I want to be in business myself so that I can help people in the way that I want to help people and not in the way that the corporate world is telling me I have to help people who may or may
Right.
not want the help, and sort of stepping that down. And my why came out of, I want to teach people that technology isn't scary and I want to help
Yes.
them succeed with technology. And so that's kind of how I got to my why. It was a combination of this process that I found out through this podcast and then also that 5 whys activity, which I think it ended up being more than 5, but keep going until you get to the bottom one.
Yes, absolutely. So, how do you go about really creating a compelling vision for your future? And like what kind of tools or methods do you use to do that? Is there any sort of like tech that you can suggest there?
Yeah, so I really just use a Google Doc, honestly. Like I said, it doesn't have to be super fancy. It can even be a notes doc. I live in my notes app on my phone, and it may not all happen in one session. Like you may have to let it marinate a little bit in your head. So sit down, do the 5 whys exercise of why you want to be in business for yourself, why you want to help people, and then sleep on it. Think about it for a little while, figure out if that's really what you want. I would also write all the whys down so that you
Yeah.
can see and remember your progression of, okay, this is how I got here. This is why, no pun intended, why this was important. Write that down in a Google Doc and then marinate on it and then let it be flexible and fluid. It's not set in stone. You can always change your mind later and say, well, this isn't really what's important to me anymore. Now, this other thing is important to me. Maybe you become a parent. Maybe you adopt a dog and maybe you move or something changes that changes your perspective. And so then changes your vision of what you want your company to look like, what you want your vision to be. And so let that be sort of a living, breathing document and kind of keep the history so that you can see where you've come from
Yes.
and see what's happened to kind of change things for you. But let it be fluid, let it be flexible, let it adapt as your life adapts.
Yes. So now that we kind of have that vision in place, how do we really start to prioritize or create goals out of that company vision?
Yeah. So then we sit down and we say, okay, here's the company vision. And then you take a step back and you say, okay, so I understand my why and I
Yeah.
understand what I want my business to look like. And then you break that down into, okay, what does that look like bigger picture? What does that look like income wise? What does it look like who I work with? What does it look like the services that I'm providing? And you create goals around those. And then you take a step back further and you're like, okay, what's the next thing right before that I have to accomplish? Okay, what's the thing before that I have to accomplish? And what you want to do is break it down to manageable goals. You want to get to that point where you say, okay, what's the next step I have to take to achieve this larger goal that will get me to what I want my business to look like? And
Right.
it can be really hard. Like it can be really hard to break those things down. It can be hard to figure out what that next step is. And in Agile, we're always talking about doing just enough planning. You want to have that big goal in mind, but you don't want to
Yeah.
plan so far ahead because things are going to change. You're going to change as a person, your business is going to change, the economy is going to change.
Y-
You may start out thinking you want to be a CPA or a bookkeeper, and then you're like, well, actually, I really like coaching.
Yeah.
And so then you have to pivot and you have to shift, and you have to be okay with that and understand like there's phases in life. And so that's why we just do just enough. What's the next step that we have to do to accomplish this bigger goal, with the
Yes.
understanding that we may have to pivot. So that's how I like to plan out my goals and work with my clients to plan out their goals. What's your big castle in the sky dream? Okay, let's work backward from that and then figure out what the next step is that we can take in the near term to get you towards that goal.
Yeah, I love the way you put that too, because talking about me personally, I'm a bookkeeper, but I recently had a transition where now I'm going into coaching. And while I'm still doing both, I had planned pretty much everything out for bookkeeping. I was like, I'm going to do all this. I have all these big dreams. I have all these big hopes. And then coming back to it, I'm realizing, oh, well, now I have to pivot because now I have two different streams that I'm going down with different ideas and different hopes and different dreams. So I think that just planning a little bit at a time is probably more helpful than being like, oh, I'm going to plan out the next 3 years and figure out what's going to happen.
Yes. There's this great book called The 12-Week Year that helps you figure out, like, it says annual planning is dead, and it's aimed more at corporate people, but you can use it. I've used it in my business. It's called The 12-Week Year. And I can't remember the author's name off the top of my head, but it's a very popular book. And it basically helps you break down those goals into what you think should be a year. And then it breaks it down into 12 weeks. And then it's like, okay, every week I'm going to do this step or this next thing. And it's a lot more manageable when you think about it. And it's not quarterly, it's 12 weeks, because a lot of people try to make it quarterly. It's 12 weeks. And it's a lot more manageable when you think about, okay, so this is my 12-week goal. So what do I have to do this week as 1/12 of getting to that goal? And it's still hard. It's hard to break down something into like a realistic 12-week goal. So it takes some practice to do and sometimes some
Yes.
guidance from someone like me. But it's really helpful in focusing and helping you understand what you should be focusing on in your business and what isn't important. What should you not be doing right now? Like right now, blogging isn't a big part of my business. I'm still doing it a
Yeah.
little bit, but my focus is being on podcasts. My focus is starting my own podcast because I
Yeah.
want to reach that broader audience and things like that. So you really want to understand, what's my 12-week goal? Okay, then what do I need to be doing right now towards those goals?
Yes. I love that. I love that. With talking about goals, like how do you differentiate between urgent and important tasks in your daily workflow?
So urgent is, if I don't do this, the house will fall down. Things will stop working. My client won't get their file on time. Things are going to happen as a result of you not doing this thing. Important is, I should get this done, but I don't have to do it right this second. Things are not going to break. My client isn't going to be disappointed, or I'm not going to miss a deadline, but I do have to do this thing. So it's understanding the timing between urgent and important kind of differentiates the two.
Okay. Okay. Can you share a personal example of focusing on a high impact long term goal and the outcomes that you achieved?
Yeah, so I would say the pivot that I'm doing right now towards systems, it's actually been a long time in the making. I started at the beginning of this year pivoting towards systems and operations and productivity. And it's been a long time in the making. I've been doing the 12-week goal, sort of planning towards it, and it helped me get perspective on it. It helped me understand, like, okay, you can't just flip like that. It's not flipping a switch. You have to
Yeah.
really plan it out. You have to say, okay, long term, I want to be working with these clients. I want to be providing these services. I want to be doing this to gain the clients, like doing a podcast, and then stepping back and building towards that. For example, I'm starting my own podcast soon. It's going to be called the Process to Profit Podcast. And it's taking a lot of planning. Like, I'm scheduling out all the interviews, I'm planning the actual launch, I have to do all the graphics, and I have to do all the process for it. And
Yeah.
I'm an Aries, so I'm very much someone who likes to just jump in and get started. I am not good with like long-term satisfaction and long-term
Yes.
planning and goals. It's something that I have to really force myself to do. And so with this podcast, I have to really I started scheduling interviews for August in May because I was going out of town in June and July. And so it wasn't feasible for me to start recording then. So I had to really plan ahead. And I'm doing a blitz of interviews during this month so that I can just do it once and then I will launch them weekly. And so it took a
Yeah.
lot of planning ahead to do these things. And it's not usually how I work. I'm trying to get better at it, and I'm really good at helping other people do that, but not so much myself. So planning out this podcast has been definitely an example of that longish term planning and implementation.
Yes, yes. So, what kind of strategies do you use or do you suggest using to eliminate or delegate low priority tasks and distractions?
So I always recommend you do a task audit. A lot of
Okay.
people do not understand the work that it takes to run their business, even though they're in it every day, they're doing every little thing for their business, they're doing all the steps themselves. They still don't really have a full picture of what's going on in their business and what they're actually doing. So I
Right.
recommend doing a task audit. And there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can either do it during the week, you can write down everything that you're doing. You can just take 15 minutes and just do like a really quick brainstorm of, oh, here are all the things that I've been doing, and then maybe add to it as you think of additional things. But getting that task audit done will really open your eyes as to all the little things that you're doing to actually run your business. And then you take those tasks, that whole list, and you put them in buckets. Things you enjoy doing, things that you it could be potentially be done by someone else that maybe you don't necessarily enjoy, and things that could be automated. What are things that you're doing that actually a system could do? If it's sending
Yes.
follow-up emails, if it's sending podcast collaterals to people, potentially that could be automated, things like that. So it's doing the task audit, then organizing the tasks into those buckets. And then once you have those buckets, then it's saying, okay, what do I have to do to automate these tasks? Okay, what's left that I don't enjoy doing or that I could give to someone else?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, so then who do I need to actually bring on to do these tasks? Is it a graphic designer? Is it a social media marketing person? Is it just a VA that can go in and just manage your inbox and your calendar? Figuring out what those things are is that first step.
Yes, absolutely. So now that you kind of have your vision, you've clarified your vision, you know what goals you have in mind, and you're going through your tasks, how do we combine all of that into creating some sort of action plan where it's very focus driven?
Yeah, so the way that I do it and the way that I recommend my clients do it is I sit down every 12 weeks and I plan out, okay, these are the tasks I'm going to take every week to meet those 12-week goals. Okay, now I have all of my week 1, I have to do these things, week 2, I have to do these things. And that's not going to take up my full week. It's intentional, but it should be the focus of your week, of
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're doing, because you're also going to realize, like, oh, well, I said that I have to do podcast interviews, but I also have to sit down and find those podcasts and then apply to them. It's going to break out into more tasks than you think when you're initially listing those out. So you want to give yourself some cushion and not fully schedule yourself out with those 12-week goals. And then you sit what I do and my clients do is I sit down every week and I say, okay, here are the things that I said I had to do this week. Here's my calendar. Let me
Yeah.
go in and actually time block out the tasks that I have to do. So I have to create a slide deck for a presentation to a community for that someone else is running. Okay, let me block out 2 hours to go in and create that slide deck. So I sit down for an hour every Monday, and it took me longer yesterday because I've been on vacation, but I sit down for an hour every Monday, look at my calendar, and even look a few weeks ahead and say, okay, this presentation is coming up, or this training or this podcast is coming up. I want to make sure that I'm planning ahead. And I sit down and I block out that time that it takes for me to actually do those things so that I'm actually dedicating the time. And it may or may not actually happen. You may, underestimate
Yes.
humans. Humans are notorious for estimating time terribly. We are not good at it. So you do not want to schedule out every minute of every day. You do want to make sure you're taking a lunch. You want to make sure if you're only part-time, then you want to really give yourself that cushion that you need to make sure that you're like a slide deck may take me 2 hours, but it may take me 4. It depends on how in depth I want to get and if I'm reusing content and things like that. So you want to be really generous with your estimates because it's probably going to take more time than you think it's going to take. And then I actually do all of this in Notion, which is a free tool that you can go in and set up schedules and weekly and tasks and projects and things like that. But you can do this right in
Yes.
Google Calendar. Like you don't have to be fancy with it. And that really helps me feel like I'm making progress. It helps me feel like I'm working towards something. The work that I'm doing has focus. The work that I'm doing has intention. And I'm not
Yeah.
just going in every morning and saying, okay, what do I have to do today? Oh, I have a presentation at 2 o'clock and I haven't made the slide deck yet for it. Really taking the time. A lot of people don't want to take the time to plan. They think it's a waste of time. They think, oh, I don't have time to plan. I just need to sit down and do it. But taking the time to plan will actually save you time in the long run. So
Yes.
building that into your schedule and then building into your schedule all the things that you actually have to accomplish really makes a huge difference. And then also time batching. I only do meetings. It's Tuesday right now. I only do meetings with other people on Tuesdays and Thursday if I can possibly avoid it. Because I know that context switching is so hard for me. And if I'm doing a podcast interview 1 minute and then I have to go off and work on a slide deck, I'm not going to be at my best. And then I have to drop that again to go in and do a networking meeting. That's just not how I work well.
Yep.
So I only do meetings Tuesdays and Thursdays within as much within my control as possible. Scheduling out your time, planning what you're going to focus on as much as you can, and then giving yourself that cushion, and then also trying to be really intentional with your schedule and your days and things like that, I find really make a huge difference in your productivity and actually reaching your goals and achieving the things that you want to achieve because you're making plans and working intentionally towards them.
Yes. Yes. I totally agree with you there. I also time block, but then I also only take meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays as much as possible. Like all my schedulers are planned for Tuesdays and Thursdays specifically because Monday I have my CEO day. Tuesdays and Thursdays I usually leave open for calls, or if I'm doing any kinds of like project work, I'll plan that into the day around the calls. And then Wednesday is my completely client focused day. And I'm like, if I had a call during this day, I wouldn't be able to concentrate. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I have to get ready for my call. And I find that a lot of the times is when I do have so many calls during a day, I tend to not work at all because
You
I'm like,
stress about it. Yeah, you think
yes,
about it. Yes, that's the way I am too.
yes. And it's like, oh my goodness, I have a call coming up. So why am I working? And it's nothing to really be stressed about because it's something you're used to,
Right.
but it just feels so weird. It's like, I have another call in like a half hour. I shouldn't be doing anything.
Well, it's like you don't want to start something either because you know you're going to have to
Yes.
stop. And so that like gets in your head and you're like, well, I don't have time to really make any progress. So I'm just about it. Yes, I'm totally with you on all of that.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I've gotten to the point where I've been like, Friday can be my open day. If absolutely I need to, I'll take calls. But if not, then I'll focus on like other things, project based or something like that. And I find that so valuable because when you don't have a call, like I said, you're not feeling stressed. You just have that time to focus. So I definitely agree with that. What other productivity techniques have you found to be like most effective other than time blocking and time batching?
So the other things that I really like doing is prioritizing. I know we talked about doing the 12-week year and understanding your goals and what you're working towards, but even within that, sometimes you just have to reprioritize your time. Oh, I got this opportunity to be on this really great podcast and it's on a Wednesday. Okay, so I'm going to have to move some things around. So understanding that things have to change is really important. The other things that I've tried doing are the Pomodoro timer, and that is where you do 25 minutes of focused work, and then you take 5 minutes off and you set timers for all of this. And then every 4 blocks of 20, you take a longer break so that you have time to get up and stretch and walk around, and you can adjust this to how you want to do it. I find that doesn't really work for me. Like when I'm focused, I just want to keep going because sometimes I think I might have undiagnosed ADHD. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm really focused, I just want to keep going because it's so hard for me to get that focus that I don't want to lose it. And it's so easy for me to get up and walk away and go to the bathroom and then come back. And I'm like, well, what was I doing again? And it takes so
Yes.
long to get back into it. And then another thing that I've really been enjoying is not so much a productivity hack, but using AI, using those learning modules of just kind of to help me, especially as a solopreneur, brainstorm things and talk things out and really think things through. Like I actually pay for Claude.ai because I find the responses to be a little bit better and more creative than ChatGPT. And it really helps me to focus. It helps me to sort of think things through. It's not doing my job for me, but it is helping me to do my job more effectively because I can go to Claude and say, I need to work on this new lead magnet and here's my client and what do you think are some ideas that I could work on? And then it gives me a list and then I choose what I want to focus on or I give it feedback. And it
Right.
just kind of helps me think those things through as opposed to trying to sit down and figure it out all on my own. So I find that and I know that it's can be a controversial topic whether or not you should use AI in your business. And I don't advocate having it write all of your sales pages and all of those
Yes.
things. It can help you with those things and help you figure out what you want to say. And then you put it into your own words, but you shouldn't be using it exclusively for those kinds of things. But I
Yes.
find that it really helps, especially as a solopreneur, for me to bounce ideas around and think through what I want to be focusing on. And then also prioritize. I can say I have XYZ to work on. What should I focus on first? Or what are the steps I need to do to actually achieve whatever this goal is or this project?
Right.
And it can help me sort of project plan that way as well.
Yes. And I really love that too, because I think that a lot of people are scared of AI, but I think that AI is mainly like a tool. It's not a replacement, it's a tool.
Yes.
And I use it a lot to, maybe I'll have an email that I want to reformat and say, hey, can you make this a little bit nicer?
Hmm.
Because I feel like it's a little mean. Or I say, hey, can you give me some ideas for blog posts? And then I'll write out the blog post just to get that initial topic to be like, oh,
Yep.
this is what I should talk about. And I find that it's so good for that. And it's so good for formulating ideas and
Hmm.
how sometimes we have that creative burnout, but it can definitely get you to be like, oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that. Let's think about it this way.
Yes. Hmm.
Now, I know you said that you use your 12-week plan, but how often would you tell, like, what indicators are there to tell you it's time for a change within, like, your action plan?
So if you're in the middle of your 12-week plan or whatever plan that you decide to develop, and you're sitting there going, I really don't want to do that today. And sometimes you just don't feel like doing it. But if it's happening every day, say you're starting a YouTube channel and you sit down and you're trying to write a script or you're trying to film and you're like, I'm not feeling it. I don't want to do it. And then you try another day and you don't want to do it. I would go back and reevaluate. Is a YouTube channel the right move? You may have been hearing from those gurus that it's what you should have, but is it right for you? So I would really listen to your intuition on these things and say, just because I've been told to do this and everybody says it's the right thing, is it the right thing for me? And if it's really feeling like you're forcing yourself through it, you're really struggling to make it happen. I was running a YouTube channel for a while and I was just, because it was leadership coaching, I was realizing that I just wasn't really passionate about the topic. So it was becoming a slog. And you could tell in the videos that I wasn't really excited about what I was talking about.
Yes.
So if you're doing something and it's really feeling like, I just don't want to be doing this right now, then I would, reevaluate and say, is this what I want to be doing? Is this what I should be focusing my time and my energy on?
Yes. Yes. So, what kind of final piece of advice would you give to someone struggling to balance urgent tasks with long-term goals while also trying to stay true to their vision overall?
I would do that task audit, honestly, and say, like, where are you spending your time? What is actually, because you're going to be really surprised, I think, about how long, say, for example, writing that client email takes you, where you're trying to say a certain thing and you don't know how to word it, and it's taking you 30 to 45 minutes to write one email. So do that task audit to see where you're actually spending your time so that then you can better understand what you should be doing about that information. So if you're spending 30 minutes to write a client email, maybe that's a good opportunity to use Claude or ChatGPT to go back and say, I want to write this email. This is what I wanted to say. Here's the tone. And ChatGPT or Claude can write it for you, and then you can modify it. Doing that task audit, I think, would be that first step to really understand where you're spending your time. And then take that step back and say, okay, I'm spending my time doing these things that aren't really working me towards the goal that I want, or these larger goals that I want for my life and my business. How do I change this? Do I really need to be, for example, like we were talking about, do I really need to be doing this YouTube channel? I'm spending 20 hours a week on it. Am I getting a return on the investment? Is
Yeah.
it worth the time that I'm putting into it? So I think doing that task audit and then taking a step back to see if the things that you're spending the majority of your time on is actually moving the needle forward towards those goals, and then figuring out how you shift. How do you shift your focus to be what you actually want, what you're actually working towards those goals, actually moving you towards what you want your business and your life to look like.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I love that. Well, I want to say thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Lauren. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat. Where can my listeners find more information about you?
Yeah, so I am actually really active on Threads these days, but you can find me on Instagram and then find Threads through that. I am at Lauren G Consulting on Instagram, and Threads I think is the same one. And I am restarting my YouTube channel, so Lauren Glynn Consulting. I'm now focusing more on productivity, and I'm going to have my podcast on there. My Process to Profit podcast is going to be on there, my video podcast. And then if they want, I also have a free gift for your listeners today. It is the 7 days to streamline your business. If you are looking at, I have all these processes and I don't know what's going on and I don't know where I'm spending my time, this is my free 7-day email course where you can go through and figure out what you're actually doing in your business, what you're taking your time on, identify what is that biggest time suck, what is preventing me from actually reaching my goals. So that is at laurenglynn.com/streamline, STREMLINE. And it's Glynn, GLYNN. I know that sometimes people spell it with an E, but mine's with a Y. And again, totally free. All you have to do is sign up, and that will start coming into your inbox and help you figure out how you want to streamline your processes and prioritize and figure out what it is you want to work on.
Beautiful. I'll definitely be sure to include those links in the show notes as well. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
And that wraps up another episode of the Creative Minds Smart Money podcast. It was a pleasure having Lauren Glynn share her insights into systems and operations, offering invaluable tips on prioritizing goals, managing tasks, and streamlining your business for success. Whether you're looking to work fewer hours, increase revenue, or simply reduce chaos, Lauren's strategies provide a solid foundation to achieve those goals. To connect with Lauren and dive deeper into her expertise, follow her on Instagram and Threads at @LaurenG Consulting. And don't miss her upcoming podcast, Process to Profit. Be sure to check out her free 7-day email course, Streamline Your Business, to identify and eliminate time-wasting processes. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope Lauren's wisdom inspires you to take actionable steps towards a more productive and balanced business life. Until next time, keep your creative minds flowing. Farewell, fellow travelers.